What if everything you thought you knew about Jamie and Claire's past was about to be turned upside down? These four burning questions dive into the most shocking theories surrounding Faith's possible return, and they just might change the way you see Outlander forever. Outlander Season 8. One of the most shocking and emotional twists centers around the possible return of Jamie and Claire's long-lost daughter, Faith. In the earlier seasons of the series, Faith was introduced under tragic circumstances. Claire suffered a traumatic stillbirth in Paris during Season 2, a heartbreaking moment that deeply affected both her and Jamie. At the time, Faith was believed to have died shortly after birth, and Claire was left to grieve the loss alone while dealing with political chaos and personal suffering. The twist suggested for the final season challenges this long-held belief. Could it be that Faith didn't actually die? This question opens the door to several powerful theories that have gripped the Outlander fan community. Some fans speculate that time travel, the same mysterious force that brought Claire to the 18th century, might also be the key to Faith's survival. Perhaps an unknown event or unseen character intervened at the time of her birth, leading to her being saved and hidden in another time or place. Others suggest that she may have somehow been transported to a different point in history, either by accident or design, and has lived her life unaware of her true origins. If Faith were indeed alive, it would fundamentally change the emotional and narrative landscape of the series. Jamie and Claire have carried the weight of her loss for decades. The possibility of reuniting with their daughter after such profound grief introduces themes of hope, healing, and the rewriting of destiny. It would also provide a deeply personal and emotionally charged storyline to close out the show's final season, potentially giving the characters and viewers some long-awaited closure, or alternatively, sparking even more emotional turmoil. This twist not only revisits a painful part of the Fraser family's history, but also challenges the audience to reconsider what is possible within the universe of Outlander. The show has already proven that death is not always the end, especially when time travel is involved. Faith's return would be a powerful narrative tool to revisit earlier emotional arcs, bring new light to Claire's trauma, and test the strength of the family bonds that have endured so many trials. Ultimately, this question serves as the foundation for a season that promises to be both shocking and deeply moving, inviting viewers to consider how the past can resurface in the most unexpected ways and whether miracles are possible even in a world shaped by war, loss, and time itself. Outlander Universe. From the very beginning, the story has explored the consequences and mysteries surrounding Claire's unexpected journey through the standing stones that transported her from the 20th century to the 18th. Over the seasons, this concept has been expanded upon, revealing that Claire is not alone in her ability to travel through time. Others, including her daughter Brianna and grandson Jemmy, have also inherited this rare gift. Given this backdrop, it is entirely within the realm of Outlander's mythology that time travel could influence or even enable Faith's potential return. To understand how time travel might play a role in bringing Faith back, we have to revisit the circumstances surrounding her supposed death. In Season 2, Claire tragically lost Faith in Paris, where she was stillborn after a complicated pregnancy. However, Outlander has taught us that not all events happen the way they initially seem. The possibility exists that something or someone intervened at that crucial moment. Perhaps another time traveler was involved, or maybe an unknown force acted to save Faith, transporting her away from that timeline and into another era entirely. The show's established rules of time travel, though not fully understood even by the characters themselves, leave room for a twist in which Faith was removed from her original time at the moment of her supposed death. One plausible theory is that a time traveler, aware of the significance of the Fraser family, saved Faith and took her to safety in another time period. This could have been done to protect her from the political dangers in 18th century France, or perhaps for reasons tied to future events that have yet to unfold. Given the show's use of prophecy, fate, and historical entanglements, it would not be far-fetched for Faith to have a role to play in a greater timeline, one that required her to live a life hidden from her birth parents until the right moment. Another possibility involves the mysterious nature of the standing stones themselves. If Faith possessed the ability to travel through time, like Brianna and Jemmy, it's possible that, even as an infant, she was instinctively drawn through the stones or taken by someone who recognized her potential. While this would raise many questions such as who knew about her and why they acted, it fits within Outlander's long tradition of blending mystery, fate, and family legacy. Moreover, time travel in Outlander often comes with significant emotional consequences. It doesn't just serve as a plot device, it forces characters to confront difficult choices, question their place in history, and endure painful separations from loved ones. If Faith's return involves time travel, it wouldn't be a simple reunion. The emotional fallout would be complex and far-reaching. Claire and Jamie would have to reconcile their long-held grief with the shock and joy of discovering their daughter is alive. They would also need to understand where Faith has been, what she knows, and whether she, too, has struggled with her identity across time. Finally, from a narrative perspective, using time travel as the means of Faith's return would allow the series to revisit key events and deepen the mythology surrounding the Stones and their connection to the Fraser bloodline. It could also tie together lingering plot threads from earlier seasons, perhaps even revealing that certain characters or events were unknowingly shaped by Faith's hidden presence all along. In conclusion, time travel offers a deeply emotional and thematically rich way to reintroduce Faith into the story. It's not just a fantasy concept in Outlander, it's the very force that has shaped the lives, losses, and destinies of its central characters. If Faith's return is indeed tied to time travel, it promises to be one of the most poignant and transformative revelations of the final season, tying together past grief and future hope in a way that only Outlander can. The emotional impact of Faith's return on Jamie and Claire would be profound, complex, and deeply transformative. Faith was not just any child to them. She represented both the hope and heartbreak of a life they longed to build together. Her loss in Season 2 was one of the most devastating moments for Claire and remains a lingering wound in her soul. Jamie, although not present during the birth, also suffered deeply upon hearing of her death, and it created a lasting shadow over their relationship and personal healing. The possibility of Faith returning alive, grown, and possibly unaware of her true origins would stir every buried emotion they've spent years trying to reconcile. For Claire, who physically and emotionally endured the trauma of losing Faith, the return of her daughter would force her to relive one of the darkest times of her life. After the stillbirth, Claire suffered from emotional isolation, grief, and a sense of maternal failure despite knowing the complications were out of her control. She carried the memory of Faith with quiet dignity, often keeping her sorrow private even as she went on to raise Brianna and build a life in both the 18th and 20th centuries. Seeing Faith again standing before her, living and breathing would reopen old wounds, but also present an overwhelming sense of joy and disbelief. Claire might question the reality of it at first, possibly suspecting a dream or hallucination. Once she accepted it, the grief she carried for decades could transform into both awe and guilt. Awe at the miracle before her, and guilt for the life Faith had lived without her. For Jamie, the emotional effect would be just as powerful, though shaped differently by circumstance. He never saw Faith, never held her, and only knew her through Claire's heartbreaking descriptions. Jamie has always held a deep reverence for his children and family, and although he came to accept Faith's death, the pain of never knowing her was real. If Faith were to return, it would be a moment of joy, but also of loss revisited, of realizing what could have been had she lived with them from the start. Jamie would likely respond with tenderness and quiet strength, but internally, he might wrestle with a deep sadness for the years lost. He would feel fiercely protective of her, proud of the woman she has become, and perhaps even unworthy of her love after having missed so much of her life. Together, Jamie and Claire would face a storm of emotions: disbelief, elation, sorrow, hope, fear, and love. Faith's presence would challenge their understanding of fate, time, and healing. It could strengthen their bond as they support each other through the shock, but it might also reveal new vulnerabilities in their relationship as they navigate how to connect with a daughter who may feel like a stranger. There's also the question of Faith herself. Her emotional state would have a major impact on her parents. If she had lived in another time or been raised by someone else, she might struggle with identity and belonging. She may not instantly recognize Jamie and Claire as her parents, especially if she was told a different version of her origins. This would be heartbreaking for Claire in particular, who longed for the daughter she never got to raise. The process of forming a bond with Faith could be emotionally overwhelming, filled with awkward first moments, hesitant affection, and a gradual building of trust. Claire and Jamie would have to be patient and open-hearted, letting Faith come to them in her own time and way. In addition to the personal impact, the return of Faith would have symbolic meaning for the entire Fraser family. It would bring healing to old wounds, especially for Claire, whose loss has defined much of her emotional landscape. It would offer Jamie a connection to a part of his past he never got to experience, and it would expand the family legacy in a meaningful way. Brianna, too, would be affected meeting a sister she never knew she had, and possibly finding a new sense of connection and history in someone who shares her blood and her mother's strength. Emotionally, the reunion would be both a blessing and a test. Jamie and Claire would be challenged to embrace a new reality, redefine their roles as parents, and navigate the fragile terrain of rebuilding lost time. The return of Faith would not erase the pain of the past, but it would offer something just as powerful, the chance to turn sorrow into joy and mourning into love. In summary, the emotional impact of Faith's return would be monumental. For Jamie and Claire, it would be a journey through grief, wonder, and rediscovery, a reminder that even after profound loss, life has a way of offering unexpected miracles. It would serve as a final emotional arc for the couple in the last season, providing an opportunity for closure, reconciliation, and the full circle of their family story. Outlander Season 8 is described as potentially delivering the shock of a lifetime because it promises to introduce a dramatic twist that could completely alter the foundation of the story, its characters, and their emotional journeys. Throughout the series, Outlander has built a reputation for surprising its audience with intense revelations, time travel complications, character returns, and emotionally charged plot developments. Yet, even by Outlander's own high standards, the potential return of Jamie and Claire's long-lost daughter, Faith, would be an extraordinary and deeply emotional turning point, one that fans have never seen coming and one that would challenge everything the characters thought they knew about their past and future. For longtime viewers, Faith's story is not only a tragedy but a cornerstone of Claire and Jamie's early journey together. The loss of their first child was more than just an emotional blow. It shaped their relationship, their decisions, and their inner struggles for years. For Claire, Faith's stillbirth was a deeply traumatic experience, one that occurred while she was isolated and ill, and which haunted her through the decades. Jamie, too, although absent at the time of Faith's birth and death, carried the weight of that loss with quiet grief and a sense of helplessness. Bringing Faith back into the story now, after so much time and emotional distance, would overturn one of the most defining losses of their lives. The emotional, psychological, and narrative impact would be staggering. The idea that Faith might still be alive, possibly through some twist of time travel or secret intervention, is not only shocking, it is a complete reversal of what was assumed to be a closed chapter in the Frasers' lives. That's part of what makes it the shock of a lifetime. It's not just about surprise, it's about confronting something so emotionally powerful and unexpected that it feels like a miracle. It redefines the meaning of loss and hope within the story. For years, viewers and characters alike believed Faith was gone forever. Her return would be a moment that breaks every rule, stretches the boundaries of time and reality, and forces everyone to reevaluate what is truly possible in the world of Outlander. Another layer of the shock lies in how the show has built its final season. Season 8 is expected to bring the story to its ultimate conclusion, wrapping up arcs that have been developing for years. Fans anticipate answers to long-standing mysteries, emotional reunions, and meaningful resolutions. The introduction of such a monumental twist as Faith's return would not only satisfy the appetite for drama and surprise, it would raise the stakes in a deeply personal and emotional way. Unlike external conflicts such as war, political intrigue, or survival, this twist reaches into the characters' innermost lives and challenges their emotional resilience, beliefs, and relationships. It's the kind of narrative surprise that brings catharsis, upheaval, and wonder all at once. Moreover, Outlander has always been as much about emotional storytelling as it is about historical drama or science fiction. Season 8 positioning itself around the return of a lost child, a child who represents grief, maternal loss, and a broken legacy, would be an incredibly emotional experience for viewers. It would also create ripples through the entire Fraser family. Brianna and Roger would need to understand and accept a new sibling. Fergus and Marsali, extended family to Claire and Jamie, would also be affected. The family dynamic would shift. Old wounds might reopen, and long-buried feelings could resurface, bringing a blend of healing and heartbreak. From a storytelling standpoint, this kind of twist is also effective because it's completely unexpected, yet still believable within the world the show has established. Time travel is a known element of the Outlander universe. The characters have seen loved ones return from different times, and the show has made it clear that the boundaries between life, death, past, and future are not as fixed as they seem. But Faith's return takes that concept further. It's not just bending time, it's rewriting an emotionally pivotal event in the story's past. That level of narrative boldness feels final season worthy, the kind of storytelling that leaves a lasting impression. In essence, calling Season 8 the shock of a lifetime sets the tone for a conclusion that is emotionally explosive, surprising in the best way, and deeply resonant. It suggests a final act that is not only about tying up loose ends, but about delivering a moment that redefines everything that came before. Whether Faith's return is real, imagined, or symbolic, the very possibility of it adds a layer of emotional suspense and anticipation that makes this final season not just the end of a story, but the unfolding of a revelation that could change everything. Ultimately, the phrase shock of a lifetime captures both the scale and the intimacy of the potential twist. It's not just about a surprise for the sake of drama. It's about confronting a miracle, facing unresolved grief, and giving Jamie and Claire and the audience one final emotional mountain to climb. It represents the unpredictable, soul-stirring storytelling that Outlander is known for, and it promises a conclusion as unforgettable as the journey that led to it. Thank you so much for joining us on this emotional journey through the theories and possibilities surrounding Outlander Season 8. Whether Faith returns or not, one thing is certain: this final season is bound to leave a lasting impact on all of us. Your support, thoughts, and passion for the story mean the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives, and let us know in the comments what you think might happen next. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep the Fraser spirit alive. Sell in Amhath.